how do we write jokes about these things since nobody can say anything anymore, right?
Well, two presidents. You've had two presidents. The first one you couldn't satirize because he was so fucking brilliant, and he was so. And then the second one you can't satirize because he's so crazy and over the top. You've had two presidents you can't make fun of for completely different reasons. It's like, wow.
Right.
A tan suit.
Okay, so how do you write a joke about Clayton? You used to have one of my favorite jokes, right? Your joke was about how your cousin tried to molest you and tried to bribe you with a video game, right? And here you are, you make money. So apparently your cousin didn't molest you because you didn't traumatize where you could play video games anymore. That's somebody.
That's how you got into it.
And listen, this is the thing, like I have been molested. So when I'm making jokes about molestation, it is me making a joke from my personal experience and dealing with it. And someone will try to take that away from me and say, I'm being insensitive to all the other people who've been molested. And I'm like, I cannot write a joke with everyone in mind when I'm writing a joke about my own personal experience. So
when you say that, it's okay for me from this point and from the previous point. I am somebody who, when I see somebody in a wheelchair and I'm on stage, the first thing I say is something about that person in the wheelchair, because I know that they're feeling like I want to be included, but I also don't want to be offended. And I think I used to get into so much trouble with hecklers in the beginning of my stand-up career that I had to master how to make fun of people they can laugh with me, as opposed to them feeling laughed at. So I mastered that pretty early on, being able to make fun of somebody in a wheelchair or making fun of someone who was homosexual or lesbian or had some kind of deformity that they, as society, would feel as a deformity, and a way that we can all laugh and you don't feel attacked, that you just feel like one of us. And it's a very delicate thing because you have to say everything with love. So it's like when you say something with love, I would approach somebody in a wheelchair when I'm on stage. I'll give you this perfect example. I'm at the Laugh Factory Long Beach. This is like a year ago. And I get up stage and every comedian before me sees this girl in a wheelchair who was laughing extremely loud, and they want to tell her to shut up, but she's in a wheelchair and they're like, oh, she's going to be offended. I was like, hey, look, baby girl, I know at some point when we leave, you're probably going to roll over everybody's shoes, but I need you to lower your voice. She laughed so loud and she kept laughing, and her laughing made everybody else laugh. And I'm like, look, I mean, we all kind of jealous just because you got the parking space access that you have. And it just continued from there. And it was love. We took pictures after the show. And it was one of those things that, in me saying, yo, lower your voice, she was able to laugh with us. And I think as long as you keep that that love when you're talking about somebody, then everybody can't be offended.
But my question is, which is a great point, because I think I shared it here before. I did a joke at Flappers, and I have a joke about lesbians. Tangerina's on here because I know Tangerine used to always come to my shows and laugh and fall on the ground. And she would really boost me up. But this woman came up to me after the show. She was a professor at UCLA and told me that she would like to coach me on my comedy and how it could be more sensitive, specifically to lesbians, not LGBTQIA plus, like the whole group. I mean, not the whole group, but the everyone else, just her group. But she laughed at the jokes about the Black people and the Mexicans, and she gave me her number, and she was like, you can call me and I can sit down and I can help you write your set. And I could tell this bitch has never been funny a day in her life. I was looking at her, but I was so offended by her because she was a white woman who is tenured at UCLA. I'm a stand-up comedian. I was getting $25 for that set. And she was telling, she came and employed her knowledge and her privilege and spoke on behalf of everybody else. Mind you, there were other lesbians in that audience that were like, yo, that shit was so funny. Like, yo, like it is so annoying. So when you talk about sensitive issues, how do you talk about these now with there's always a new I'm on a hiatus blog. You know what that is? A hiatus blog. I did my joke about how I don't date short men because they make me feel big. And they right? And they put me on a blog that was like anti-hiatusm is real. And had a picture of me with my last comic standing dress, and they were like, Aida Rodriguez is a hiatus. And I thought it was a joke. They were serious.
See, I have.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I have an issue with like when people are like POC. It's like, well, okay. When they identify, I'm not going to say a name. I'm just going to say they identify. I said, were you relatives brought over in the bottom of a boat?
Woo!
No, you just, somebody just didn't. They didn't let you in that class because. So I won't say what, but I'm just saying there's a difference. Okay, can we get past the difference? But it's like. Cancel culture, I swear to God, it's like that's an antithesis of saying truth. But the other thing I noticed, the people that don't apologize never take the hit. When you apologize, you're dead. South Park, Joe Rogan, whoever, they don't apologize and they don't get canceled because they know who watches them. And it's the same thing. We know who watches us. Don't apologize. If you're going to say it, just say it. Just own it, And there's going to be, it's not that you can't say anything you want. It's that you can't not get repercussions from certain people. But cancel is horrible. I'm not, the bad news is like Dennis Miller. I can remember him standing up for 2 Live Crew when they were banned in Florida. And it's not about the speaker. It's about the right. And that's unfortunate and messy and American.
Clayton, what you were going to say?
It's like when you're writing these things, I completely agree with Mark. It's like once you don't apologize, it's like, oh well, that person didn't apologize. I guess we got to move on. We look at Dave Chappelle, he has the crown as the king. You understand me? Like Eddie Murphy will always be the king to me. I mean, obviously Richard Pryor set the stage, but Eddie Murphy to me is the king. But Dave Chappelle has the crown on his head, and he says such things, and he never apologizes, and he speaks the truth. And then you look at the comedians who are forced to apologize, how they're always, once you apologize once, they're going to make you apologize for everything. So now your power is gone. So in this society, you're not going to not offend somebody. So once you know your audience, just like Mark said, I know the people who are going to support and buy tickets from me. But at the same time, I know how to deliver my material. I'll give you this example of one of my bits because there's no time soon that I'll ever be performing it. But the joke, I say, I bought a shirt, a Reading Rainbow shirt, and my wife said, yo, you can't wear that shirt. That's gay. Rainbow is gay. I said, it's the Reading Rainbow. She said, I'm sorry, it's gay. You can't wear it. I said, yo, and then I asked him, like, do we have any LGBTQ in the building tonight? And of course, you usually get like 2 or 3 claps because everybody doesn't know what you're about to say, so they don't want to admit it. And then I'm like, let me just say this. First of all, I have nothing but love and respect for the LGBTQ community. You guys are amazing. I think that the fact that you guys are able to live your truth in spite of so many bigoted, hateful people, don't ever stop being yourself. It usually gets an applause break. As soon as that happens, I say, here's my question to the LGBTQ. Who the fuck said y'all could have the rainbow as your logo? This is a community decision. We got to vote on this shit. You can't just take the rainbow. Y'all got to take colors. We ain't going to miss no more. You got to take brown. Ain't nobody going to miss brown. And then I go from there. So here's the situation where you build them up. So now everybody's on the same playing field and we'll laugh and you're not feeling attacked. So every one of my bits, I try to write from a place of let me catch you off guard, but at the same time, let me let you know my beef is what my wife is telling me about something I grew up loving and not against what you guys are doing.
Right.
Clayton, you have such, what you did with the person in the wheelchair. It's so kind and a deft hand and funny.
Thank you.
And that's really the point here. You can say so many things as long as you're not shitty. You can make so many more points with honey than vinegar. And that's how you get people to come over. And that's what I think humor is all about. When Swift said we should eat Irish baby, he wasn't serious. You know, he was fighting against the English, you know, starving them. He was like, hey, why don't we just eat the Irish babies? That way we won't have to deal with them anymore. So it's like, that's hard to do nowadays because people are so sensitive.
Yeah.
Like nobody, you know, I'm sorry to do a bit, but I was raised Catholic, and I was there, but for the grace of God and somebody walking in the room, my molestation would have gone further. And, but the joke I wrote about it was, oh, I was such a beautiful child. I drove all the priests wild. And that's not a lie. I look like an angel. It's like, come sit on my lap, you little angel. All right, and that happened. And it was like, but anyway, had to get that in there. I thought maybe somebody at home is not offended yet, and I'd like to include everyone. I'm inclusive.
You know what? The funny thing is that that joke that you just made, and the joke that I referenced earlier of Clayton talking about his cousin trying to molest him with what was the video game? It was a Sega. It was the Sega.
Yeah.
Oh.
Let me, because you've said it, let me just give the outline of it, because I don't want people, because this is so easily misconstrued.
At least get a PS if you're gonna get molested.
Bro, so I'm 8 years old, and my cousin is like, yo, why don't you come over and play Sonic? Sonic was the hottest game on Sega at the time, right? So I go over the house, and it's just he and I'm not seeing where he is. I'm like, yo, where you at? He's upstairs. And I'm like, all right, I'm coming. So I get up there. He's not in the room. And then he opens up the closet door, and he's butt ass naked. And I'm like, hey, man, where are your clothes at? And he's like, just put your clothes over there. I was like, for what? He's like, we want to play the game. I'm like, why do we have to play the game naked, right? At this point, his older sister, which is my older cousin, comes in the room and says, yo, why are y'all naked? Before I could say anything, he was like, we was playing house. I'm like, no, the fuck we wasn't. Okay. He was like, yeah, we was just wrestling. I'm like, I ain't never seen Hogan wrestle with his dick out. This is not a part of the game whatsoever. So needless to say, nothing happens. I get home. My mom was like, what, did he touch you? I'm like, no, I just want to play the game. Like, to this day, can I play the game? So it was one of those situations, but nothing, you know, I didn't, thank God, but yeah.
Listen, my point was that because you are able to tell a joke like that, and Mark is able to tell that joke, that frees a lot of men from those types of experiences that they're ashamed to talk about, shame into not talking about, right? Because it is a sensitive matter. But if you listen to comedians who are people and they're talking about the things that are relatable to us, because every single one of y'all have had inappropriate relationships with women that were older than you at a young age. So many male comedians that I know, their first sexual experience was with a grown ass woman, right? Like,
oh yeah.
You see, but those are, and that's sexual assault. Like, you don't process it that way because culturally, men are socialized to have to be able to endure those things and to be a man about it. But because of comedy, we're able to have these conversations, and you talk about these things that free a lot of men who would not ordinarily talk about something like that. And they'd be like, yeah, my cousin did try to get me, but he tried to get me with a Atari because I'm older.
You never realize there's that much about, you know, as a boy, when you're dealing with an older woman, you're like, yeah, I'm killing it. But yeah, that is truly, yeah.
That's why when people say, you know, because when I was a young teenager, 15, 16, I had been with older women, and people were like, well, did you tell anyone? I said, man, I told everyone. I feel like, that's not funny. I go, no, it's funny. It's funny. I told all my friends. I said, see that lady with the purse in the car? Yeah.
I
told everyone.
Told everybody.
But it's important to have those conversations and to be able to talk about those things, even though they're uncomfortable, because it does shape who you are as a comedian. And most of the male comedians that I know have had such life at such an early age, which is what made them able to, you know, made them the people that they are, where they make a commentary about life because they started living, you know, so young. And that's just what makes comedy so unique and special. But if you try to muzzle us, then who the hell is going to talk about this stuff since nobody else can talk about it?